Welcome back to another Film Geek movie review. In just a moment, I am going to walk my happy butt over to the futon to check out the new VOD horror film, Sincerely Saul. Sincerely Saul is written and directed by Ian Tripp, and it's starring Ryan Schaefer, Mickey Farrick, and Augie Duke. It tells the story of Saul, a 27-year-old man who's living at home with his sick grandmother. And he's made a vow to himself that if he doesn't lose his virginity by his 27th birthday, he is going to cause horrible bodily harm to himself. How horrible? So horrible the corporate overlords will not allow me to use the word that describes exactly what this man is going to do. This film looks really interesting, and I really enjoy low-budget independent films. This was sent to me as a screener, and I'm really excited to check this movie out. It looks like they filmed this on 16mm film and then digitally made the movie black and white to give it a very cool, dreamy look. And I was wondering, why didn't they just use black and white film? And then I thought, you know, getting real film today is probably hard enough. I'm sure it's even harder to get black and white film, so that's probably why they use the digital trick. But you know what? It's enough of me sitting here jibber-jabbering on. As always, my faithful feline friend Haku is waiting for me over at the futon, so it's enough for me sitting here talking. It's time for me to get walking and head over there to check out Sincerely Saul. Just getting done watching Sincerely Saul, and guys, I thought this movie was really interesting. I did enjoy this film, but I'll tell you what, I don't think it's going to be for everybody. So let's get this party started, shall we? We're going to get things started with, well, I'm going to say mixed feelings this time around, because what I'm going to talk about are things that didn't really bother me because I'm into this brand of horror, dark comedy, all of the weirdness that this movie is. But to be honest, I can definitely see where a lot of people wouldn't like this. And then we're going to go into the positives in the video on the ever so important high note. So the first thing I want to talk about is just how this movie is presented. Now, if you're a fan of surreal horror, and specifically Eraserhead, David Lynch's Eraserhead, not his entire library, not everything that David Lynch has done, just specifically Eraserhead. If you really enjoy that movie, you're probably going to like the way that this film is presented. I did like the style, but unfortunately, I do know that the way this movie looks might really annoy some people because it's very bleached out in some areas because of the way they use the filming style and all, and that might really bother some people in this. There's also moments of handheld cam in this, and things can get a little bit shaky. There's also strobe effects that are used in this film too, so if you're someone who is sensitive to strobes, be very aware that that does also happen at some points in this film. But other than that, in all honesty, the way that this movie looks and its vibe and the strange surrealist imagery that it does have, it's not necessarily something that it's completely overwhelming and sensory overload or anything like that. Going into this film, I thought this movie was going to be something more like Skidamarinky-Dink or something like that, where it's the immersive horror, where you have everything, sound and all of this coming at you and all at once to kind of make you feel entirely filled with dread. Well, this movie isn't like that. This movie doesn't necessarily try to overwhelm you with the senses. It's just the way that the filming is done. They're using a 16mm film and then digitizing it to make it black and white makes this film look very unique and dreamy, but it's also presented in such a way that could really bother you. The film relies a lot on some very nauseating types of cinematography, which I really did like because I thought that was a nice way to drive the horror in this film, but it also is something that could really annoy some people. Because yeah, there are some moments that the film really utilizes its camera to drive home more of the dread and the horror in this film than anything else, and I could see where that starts to kind of weigh people down a little bit. All in all, this is what would be considered an art house styled surrealist bit of horror, and I do know that there's a lot of people out there that just do not vibe with this type of stuff. This also feels more like a character study of the character Saul and people like Saul. I'm just gonna say forgotten people is a good way to put it. And the movie itself does try to make some points and say some things about stuff like this, where it's not necessarily Saul's fault that he is the way he is, that there's a lot of things about society and family and all that's making Saul have all this paranoia and anxiety. But at the same time, the movie itself isn't, I would say, and this is not an insult to the film, it is not sophisticated enough to handle all of the heavy-handed type of messaging that this film does try to have. It does succeed in some areas, and I thought the film did a great job, but also it does kind of just make light of some things, but that's not necessarily the fault of the film, it's just kind of the way that these things play out. All in all, I'd have to say that this was a really solidly presented film, but as I keep going back on, I think that it might get to a little unnerving. And at some points in this film, even though I was enjoying it, yes, just the way that it's filmed and shot and all, it did start to bother me a little bit, but I do think that the film was designed in order to do that. All in all, I thought this movie was really good, so let's just move into the positives. If you're a fan of surrealist horror such as this, you're probably gonna like a lot. I keep going back to the movie Eraserhead, and that's just because this film's just overall dread and vibe feel the same way, and it also has that very strange, dreamy feel to it. Now, I keep bringing up the negative sides to the way that the cinematography and the way that this movie is filmed, but let's talk about the positive, because I thought that the way that this movie is filmed looks really outstanding. I really enjoyed the usage of light in this film, where sometimes the natural light that's coming in from behind our figures is just completely bleaching everything out, and it made everything feel very dreamy, almost like you're looking through things in a clouded mind, which I thought also really helped drive home the dread feeling throughout this entire movie. There is a bit of comedy that's thrown into this film to kind of lighten the mood a little bit, and I do think that there was some really good moments that did stick the comedy quite well in this movie. The acting overall is really solid. I was impressed with the cast of this film. I thought everybody did an outstanding job, but I want to talk about Ryan Schaefer, who plays Saul. I thought he did an excellent job with this role, with this character, because the character of Saul himself is kind of a complicated character, because you have to have this character that is very unlikable, but you have to somehow or another make this character sympathetic to the viewer. And I think that Ryan did an excellent job making this character not just extremely annoying and irritating, but also very endearing to the point where you do start to feel a lot of genuine sympathy for this character as the movie progresses, as you start to learn more of why Saul is the way Saul is, and you do start to develop a little bit of a liking for him. I do want to say that Saul, in my opinion, does remain a fairly unlikable character, but he does somewhat become sympathetic, and I do think that's a lot to do with the performance by Ryan Schaefer. So all in all, guys, I would have to say that if you're in the mood for watching a nice, well-made, well-put-together, surrealist, independent film that's on VOD services, this is a film that's for you. I mean, it is interesting, and if you just want to see what some filmmakers can do on a low budget with a lot of really cool camera work, this is a great example. And I mean, in all honesty, guys, is it worth the price? Well, I looked it up, and it's currently on VOD services, but it's on every one of them out there: Fandango, Google, Prime, so on, and it's around $2.99 to $3.99 to rent this. The movie's an hour and a half long. It is definitely worth the $2.99, $3.99 price tag and the hour and 35 minutes. Again, if you're someone who is into this type of horror. So that's all I have for you today, guys. Thanks again for checking out The Film Geek. If you liked what you saw here today, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, and give me the old thumbs up if you like what you're seeing. And if there's one more thing you can do, folks, that is keep watching movies. You know I'm gonna.